JD Vance once again showed just how unfit he is for serious political leadership. I'm honestly eager to spend some time breaking down why this man, this hollow, opportunistic shapeshifter, is such a perfect reflection of the moral bankruptcy that defines the Trump movement. Vance stands for nothing except his own advancement. He's a man with no spine, no convictions, and no loyalty to anyone but himself. He'll never twist his image and his words into whatever, form best serves his interest to climb up the MAGA ladder, even if it means trampling all over the truth, decency, or the people he claims to represent. Before diving into that exchange, make sure to support the channel by liking and subscribing, guys. It really does help us keep calling out dangerous figures like Vance and the Trump machine that prop him up. At the turning point at the USA event, he made that painfully clear again, guys. He debated a couple of students, one of them a young woman who courageously confronted him about his hypocrisy, his abandonment of any genuine values, and his willingness to side with an administration pushing inhumane immigration policies. It's absolutely bonkers, guys. The other was a self-proclaimed MAGA loyalist in terms of the questions the students were giving, who, in a stunning turn of events, actually called Vance out himself. What followed was an embarrassing display by him that exposed Vance as a fumbling mouthpiece for Trump's toxic politics rather than a leader with any real substance or conviction. Now let's take a closer look at how completely he crumbled when faced with people who weren't willing to swallow his empty rhetoric.
Hello, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to talk here today. I did not agree with many of the things that you said right ahead of this, but I don't think that's my point to discuss here. What I want to ask is, you are married to a woman who is not Christian. In her Wikipedia, I just looked it up. I wanted to know what her faith was. I didn't know this before. But she still calls herself Hindu. You are raising three kids in interracial, cultural, racial, religious household. How are you maintaining, or how are you teaching your kids not to keep your religion ahead of their mother's religion? Or how are you teaching them that your kind, they're that kind who got here just few years or few decades ago is different or is better than your mom's kind who got here just a generation before? How are you balancing that? And when you talk about too many immigrants here, when did you guys decide that number? Why did you sell us a dream? You made us spend our youth, our wealth in this country and gave us a dream. You don't owe us anything. We have worked hard for it. Then how can you as a vice president stand there and say that we have too many of them now and we are going to take them out to people who are here rightfully so by paying the money that you guys asked us? You gave us the path, and now how can you stop it and tell us we don't belong here anymore? And one more thing, I'm sorry, one more thing. Sure. Do you have to
There's a lot there. I don't know if I'm going to remember all this, but yeah, I will try.
I'm sorry. I had to say all of this, and please take it with due. I'm saying all of this with due respect.
Go ahead. Please.
I have no intention of causing a scene here or anything, but
we're not close to causing a scene. Yeah, don't worry.
But we talked about Christianity, all of this. I'm not even Christian, and I'm here standing to show support. Why are we making Christianity one of the major thing that you have to have in common to be one of you guys, to show that I love America just as much as you do? Why is that still a question? Why do I have to be a Christian?
Okay, so there was a lot there, and I'm going to try to respond to as much of it as I can. So on the question of immigration, so first of all, I can believe that we should have lower immigration levels, but if the United States passed a law and made a promise to somebody, the United States, of course, has to honor that promise. Nobody's talking about that. I'm talking about people who came in violation of the laws of the United States of America, and I'm talking about in the future reducing the number reducing the number of people. Sorry, what?
May I continue on that? Because when you just said you are not stopping with the people who came here legally, right? But you are pushing out policies that hurt us. And these policies are not even solving the problems. These policies are just creating chaos.
Ma'am. Okay, so again, I'm gonna finish answering the question, and then if I've answered all 9 of your questions in less than 15 minutes, then we can keep on going. We got to have a little fun, right? So here's the thing. I can believe that the United States should lower its levels of immigration in the future, while also respecting that there are people who have come here through lawful immigration pathways that have contributed to the country. But just because one person or 10 people or 100 people came in legally and contributed to the United States of America, does that mean that we're thereby committed to let in 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people a year in the future? No, that's not right. We cannot have, I'll go and finish. We cannot have an immigration policy where what was good for the country 50 or 60 years ago binds the country inevitably for the future. There's too many people who want to come to the United States of America, and my job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world, it's to look out for the people of the United States. Now,
Guys, I couldn't quite tell whether the young woman at the Turning Point USA event was there as a MAGA supporter or simply to confront JD Vance with tough, honest questions. But frankly, that detail doesn't really matter. What matters is what she exposed. What so many of us already know, that JD Vance is just a fraud. That's the one undeniable truth about him. He stands for absolutely nothing. There's no moral compass in that person, which guides him. No real convictions beneath the surface. Just an endless hunger for personal power, unfortunately. Vance will say or do whatever it takes to climb higher, even if it means betraying the very people closest to him. He's mocked his own family's background and faith in the past, when it suited his political ambitions. This is a man who once paraded around pretending to care about free speech, claiming it was liberals and progressives who were trying to, silence dissent. Yet now he's openly siding with authoritarian crackdowns, supporting policies that would punish or even jail Americans for speaking out against, for example, like barbaric atrocities in Palestine committed by the Netanyahu regime. So much for America first, guys, unfortunately. What Vance really champions is submission to foreign influence, to extremist donors, to anyone who can boost his career. Letting lobby groups like AIPAC steer the US foreign policy. Come on, guys, that's not patriotism. It's political servitude, nothing else. Sending billions overseas while American families struggle to feed their kids. This is not leadership, it's cruelty disguised as nationalism. Everything about JD Vance screams self-interest. America first is just a cheap slogan he hides behind, as he always has. The JD Vance first movement. And even the MAGA crowd is beginning to see through it. You can sense their growing doubt, their realization that this guy isn't one of them. He's just using them. The clearest proof came when an 18-year-old MAGA supporter, approximately 18, called him out directly, pressing him on the militarized ICE raids happening in blue cities. In that moment, even Vance's own base could see the mask slipping.
I'm a huge supporter of you guys before I make my argument, but there is something you guys are doing that is kind of disturbing me a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, I'm just wondering, well, it's not necessarily something you did wrong, but it's what could someone else do wrong? Let's say we get a complete tyrant in office, and let's say Turning Point USA is having a huge protest against, something really bad that we don't like. And let's say he's, a president is saying that it's getting violent. How can we, I'm trying to think, my mind's kind of blank. What is the difference between what you're doing and how could we prevent someone from abusing that power?
Yeah, so look, I understand where the question is coming from, and I think it's a fair question. And it's going to sound like I'm being sarcastic, and it really is not meant in any offense. But when you talk about what could another administration do, to take a wild, hypothetical example totally off the top of my head, what if Joe Biden sent the Federal Bureau of Investigation to start arresting his political opponents? Okay? So here's something that I want conservatives, I want every conservative to remember. It's an important part of my entire political philosophy is we cannot be afraid to do something because the left might do it in the future. The left is already going to do it regardless of whether we do it. That is the takeaway of the last 40 years.
It's pretty clear, guys, that the young MAGA supporter questioning J.D. Vance wasn't rejecting the idea of raids altogether. He was just starting to realize the dangerous implications of what his own movement is cheering for. And honestly, MAGA supporters should be worried. You know, the machinery of vengeance they've helped build under Trump is the same one that could one day turn on them. This is what happens when you empower cruelty and corruption. You know, you lose control of it, unfortunately. Let's be honest. The entire Trump-Vance crowd thrives on punishing perceived enemies whilst pretending to defend law and order. You know, they protect abusers and extremists whilst targeting ordinary Americans, unfortunately, who dare to disagree. The hypocrisy is staggering. They've normalized violence, empowered white nationalists, and built a political culture that glorifies retribution instead of justice. People like J.D. Vance, who enable this rot, don't care about the safety or freedom of anyone. They just care about control. This young man's question at that event reveals something deeper, guys. Even some within MAGA are beginning to recognize how morally bankrupt this agenda is. He realized, perhaps for the first time, that unleashing militarized ICE raids in blue cities isn't America first. Because if you justify that kind of power now, what's there to stop it, you know, being used against you later, right? The right loves to fearmonger about big government, but under Trump and Vance, they've built the most invasive, you know, surveillance heavy machine imaginable. Just look at who's bankrolling and benefiting from the system, guys. Tech billionaires and political oligarchs like Peter Thiel and Larry Ellison. They've turned surveillance into profit, feeding off the same paranoia they're supposed to be about giving, you know, help. They're creating that same paranoia they helped create. The MAGA movement wasn't supposed to be about giving power back to the people. In reality, it's about turning citizens into points and enemies into targets. And that's the dark truth J.D. Vance tries to hide behind, guys. His fake populist mask. You know, this movement isn't about freedom. It's about submission to Trump and Trump only. Every policy, every raid, every law they push serves one purpose, and that's to protect Trump's power and punish the critics. You know, even some of his own followers are beginning to see through it. So yes, unfortunately, there will be accountability someday. Fortunately, for the lies, the cruelty and the corruption. Because no matter how many times J.D. Vance reshapes his face and the message to please Trump's base, history won't remember him as a leader. It'll remember him as another hollow enabler who sold out his country for a chance at power. And as always, guys, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like and comment on the video, stay connected, and until next time, I'll see you.